We're going to get started with the second half of our program now. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for tonight. Mr. Brendan Ciecko is founder of Qzeum, a company which powers mobile-first experiences that help engage their visitors. Prior to Qzeum, Brendan started 10 Minute Media, an agency that specializes in digital media and creative services for the music entertainment industry. Since its official establishment in 2003, 10 Minute Media has acquired a flourishing list of clients, including some of the biggest names in entertainment. He and his entrepreneurial endeavors have gained the national attention of the press, including Entrepreneur Magazine, Fast Company, the New York Times, the Boston Globe, and PC Magazine. Brendan's wife and high school sweetheart, who is here tonight, said about Brendan, and I quote, "Brendan has always had a passion for arts and culture, something that we share. And I have no doubt that Brendan and Qzeum will transform the museum space because of his experiences as a designer who has worked closely with museums. As an engaged museum visitor and artist himself, if any CEO can make museums accessible to everyone, it's Brendan." Brendan's good friend and classmate and fellow entrepreneur, Ben Einstein, who is the founder of Bolt, a former Hampshire College classmate and a Grinspoon alum, says of Brendan, "Few entrepreneurs are as endlessly creative and curious as Brendan. It was always clear that Brendan would push the envelope on building great products and companies. He is a rare kind of entrepreneur and a great friend." Brendan attended Hampshire College, and in 2008, he was recognized with his entrepreneurial spirit with a Grinspoon Award. He and his wife Elizabeth now live in Boston with their rescue dog, Misu. So now let's hear Brendan's entrepreneurial story and learn more about Qzeum. Brendan?
How's everyone doing tonight? This is amazing. This is so extraordinary. I have to give a round of applause to everybody who showcased their business, to everyone who's come up here and pitched. It's excruciating. It is difficult. It takes a lot of guts. And you guys did a spectacular job. And I want to start by thanking and recognizing Mr. Grinspoon. Your support of the entrepreneurial community in this region is admirable and has tremendous impact. Almost 10 years ago, I received an Entrepreneurial Spirit Award. And it's such an honor and privilege to be back here to say thank you and to share my story with a room of ambitious entrepreneurs, hackers, hustlers, faculty, mentors, and passionate creators. To me, Mr. Grinspoon embodies what I see as being one of the greatest successes one could achieve in their lifetime. The ability to earn and return, to invest in people and ideas, and to support the community. So I'd like to propose a toast. Everyone please raise a glass to Mr. Grinspoon, the Grinspoon Foundation, and to entrepreneurship. I think one of the reasons I was asked to come back is I have very deep roots here in Western Massachusetts. So I was born and raised in Western Massachusetts. I'm the middle child of 5 kids. My mom drives a school bus and my dad is a plumber. So naturally I was born to build technology for rock stars and museums. But really, I always had a knack for learning and for experimentation. And when I was really, really young, there was this shady hockey shop and hardware store in Springfield, and I convinced the owner to let me teach him how to put stuff on eBay. And by doing that, I was up to save up a little bit of money to buy myself my own personal computer. This was back in the days of dial-up and compact Pissarios and all that fun stuff. And when all of my friends in school, this must have been grade school, were on Yahoo for Kids, I was in video and multimedia, was coming and presenting new things to the consumer. So I wanted to teach myself how this was all done. So I downloaded what was called Macromedia Flash at the time, taught myself how to program, taught myself how to design, and was instantly sucked into this world of technology and computers. And what I really loved about this was it allowed me to combine all of my passions, technology, music, design, all of these things. And I spent a lot of time in my bedroom as a teenager. I'm sure my parents thought I was up to no good, but I assure you I was building technology. And so a funny thing happened, and I must have been 11 years old, 12 years old when I was really starting to understand how this all worked. My favorite band, a punk rock band called Slick Shoes from Southern California, had a competition open up to their fans to design and produce this interactive element to help promote their new album. And so I leaped for joy, worked day and night on this thing, submitted, and won. And I saw that not just as, okay, I won this thing, my favorite band. I saw it as an opportunity to convince the record label, their management, and the band themselves to let me do their entire website. This was really, really exciting for me. I did it for free. But what it was kind of my first step into this very difficult to break into music industry. So from my bedroom in Western Massachusetts, I decided to start a company. It was called 10 Minute Media. And I incorporated my LLC, or I registered my LLC when I was around 13 years old. Put up a website, bought my domain, did all of that fun stuff, and kind of launched my name in the music business. And so what happened was I started working with this record label. It was the largest independent record label in the world, and I kind of eased my way into that. And very quickly after my work was being seen, the name 10 Minute Media in Brendan, Wonder Boy was my nickname given to me by Rich Egan, the CEO of Vagrant, started to circulate in the music industry, and I started to get all of these inquiries. So it was this long period of really honing my skills and understanding the music business that I started to get inquiries from Interscope, Universal, Warner. And before I was old enough to drink, and around the same time I was in Hampshire College, I got a call from Mick Jagger's manager. And so leaped at the opportunity and had an invitation to meet him in New York City at the Palace Hotel on like the penthouse suite to talk about his website. And so you can imagine for this young guy, geeky dude, still am a geeky dude, to get this opportunity to work with these great music entertainment artists was really thrilling. It kind of soothed my soul for my love of music and design and the ability to be enterprising, because I always wanted to push things further and to learn and to explore. So that company really focused on designing and developing experiences and brands and multimedia for the music industry. We worked with Katy Perry, Lenny Kravitz, New Kids on the Block. Everyone's favorite band here, I can tell, is New Kids on the Block, so you don't need to lie about that one. But it was really a fantastic experience. And so as you can imagine, rubbing shoulders with celebrities and working in this high-speed space called the music industry, I need to go on to my next passion. And what could be faster, more sexy than the music industry? Museums. And so I hit this point with 10 Minute Media where I started to look around me and think, I had this burning desire to try something new and to build something new. And my love of my life, Elizabeth, who said those very kind words earlier, kind of grew my passion into arts and culture in a lot of different ways. And so I had this opportunity to work with a museum in New York City and very quickly saw the pain points around visitor engagement using technology. And so raise your hand if you've ever seen someone use those ugly, old, clunky audio guides when you go to a museum. Yeah, they're terrible, they're terrible. So in my exploration, thinking there had to be a better way, and understanding kind of the wants and the needs of the museum space, I started spending nights and weekends building and designing and so on, researching, talking to potential customers, and I set a tipping point for myself. So in Boston, there's this really great resource, or actually in New England, there's the New England Venture Capital Association, and one thing they do once a year that is incredible, and I highly recommend folks submit for this, it's called the Unpitch. So imagine not coming up and pitching, because again, we learned that's scary business. Sitting down for lunch very casually with venture capitalists in Boston and talking about your business and getting feedback and so on. So I set this tipping point, told myself, maybe out of being naive, that if I got positive feedback from VCs, that this would be an idea worth pursuing. So got some good feedback and started to think to myself, hey, I have to shed my skin of Brendan Ciecko, the founder of 10 Minute Media, the music industry guy. I want to put myself out there, be kind of vulnerable to feedback and vulnerable to the world of starting something from scratch. And so I started circulating and talking to people about this new business. I started to talk to everybody. I contacted everybody I had worked with for feedback. And very quickly, the CEO of Princeton Review heard about it and said, I want to invest in this idea. And I'm like, I think I'm onto something. I think I'm onto something. I'm talking to customers. They're liking what I'm hearing. And now investors are starting to hear about it. So Deborah Ellinger, the CEO of Princeton Review, became the first investor in my new company, QZAM. And then soon after, Paul English, the founder of a company called Kayak, was an investor in my company. So I started to see, wow, this thing that has been so daunting, like I looked at my friends around me raising money from venture capitalists and so on as being this very intimidating process, especially coming from building things as a service agency to building a product from scratch. And I said, you know, I got to give it a go. I got to go all in. And I started my company, QZAM, in August 2014. From that point, we started building product. We ended up raising $1.4 million in venture capital. We soon after went through what's called the PayPal Start Tank and became very closely mentored by David Chang, the COO of PayPal in Boston. Then went through Techstars, and that really threw our company through a whirlwind. You're putting yourself out there in front of people who have been there, done that, founded Android and sold it to Google and now run Google Ventures, and they're tearing your company apart, all for the sake of helping you succeed and to see things through and to see different perspectives. And so QZAM, you know, in its very basic form, is replacing those clunky old audio guides and helping museums and cultural institutions of every shape and size better engage their visitor, more educational, enriching experience. And on the backside, we're helping museums pull together the various silos of data and clunky old systems to help build efficiencies and to help that engine run smoothly. And our big goal is to become the leading provider of technology to the world of arts and culture. And so it's been a very exciting journey to go from building service within my comfort zone and to jumping out into this very new process of building a product from scratch, raising money, going through an accelerator, going to market, and being a product guy, being a designer, an engineer, and having to turn into a CEO. So if you want to talk about hiring, if you want to talk about firing, if you want to talk about anything, there's so much that entrepreneurship has given me in terms of education and learning from doing that I just couldn't believe learning in any other capacity. So that's been, you know, an exciting triumph into this, you know, brave new world of starting a product business. And I look back, you know, at the Grinspoon Foundation and the support of entrepreneurship and how, you know, I can guarantee, you know, one thing, like there's nothing more thrilling in your life than being an entrepreneur and creating your own future. And that's, you know, that's my story, and I'd love to answer any questions you have. I thank you for your attention, and I thank Mr. Grinspoon and the Grinspoon Foundation once again for this great opportunity you've given the entrepreneurs of this great region. So I created these 3 points, you know, going from obvious to just the things that I've learned over the process. So being an entrepreneur is incredibly difficult. You know, it's sexy, the Facebook movie in Silicon Valley, the new show and all of that fun stuff. It's incredibly difficult. So it's a never-ending roller coaster ride. Paul Graham writes about the trough of sorrow. And so the process of building something and going like, oh my God, it's crashing. And then things, you know, start to come to play when you're getting customers and whatnot. So ultimately, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position to tell your crazy idea to friends and families and investors, customers in the world, and convince them that what you have is not crazy. And then if there's not another paradox to that, if your idea isn't crazy, it's not ambitious enough. So there's all these different flows about, okay, who do I listen to? Where do I turn to for advice? So, word of advice, and you've probably heard it and you probably feel it, is you have to develop a very thick skin. This is no cakewalk. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of energy. And I have no doubt in my mind that this room is full of people that are going to, and are able to endure this great, entrepreneurial journey. So that was the first point. Other point, very simple, find mentors. I owe a lot to my mentors. I owe a lot to those, friends and family, loved ones, but also my formal mentors and advisors that have been there for me to share things with me, because they have been there, done that, built great companies, failed, not so great companies, and they have so much that they want to share. And I think it's one of the great parts about the entrepreneurial ecosystem, whether it's in San Francisco or Boston or here in the Pioneer Valley, that you have people, like Valley Venture Mentors and the Grinspoon Foundation and all these great faculty that are here to help you, and they want you to succeed. So find mentors and don't wait. Don't think I need to incorporate and I need to do this and that. No, start today. Talk to people tonight, find a group of mentors that you can bounce ideas off of. And lastly, dedicate yourself to something you absolutely love and are thrilled to wake up and do every day, and find great people that are a joy to work with. Because building something of great scale and global impact is not going to be 1 year, 2 years, and then you flip it to some Fortune 500 company. It's going to take 5 years or more. So make sure you love what you do. It can't be about the money. It has to be about the drive and the passion. So those are my quick little advice points, but I would love some Q&A.
Question for you, Brent.
Yes.
Do you think that if you hadn't had 10-minute media, that helped launch investors to believe in you in your next business?
Absolutely. So repeat the question. So do I think that if I hadn't had 10-minute media as kind of my background, do I feel that was an important part of convincing investors to invest in my new venture? Absolutely. So the first round of capital that you'll ever receive, if you're going for your seed round, is not in your idea, it's not in your business plan, it's not in your business model, it's in you and the founding team. So it's really important to have something that is convincing about you and your character that will lead them to invest in you, because your company is going to pivot. There have been companies that pivot, 9, 10 times before getting to their big idea. So it's just inevitable that they're not investing in your idea, they're investing in you. And if you have a great story, if you're a killer computer science major in college and you're building things and winning hackathons and all of that, that's a good basis. So I encourage you to, overachieve in those areas when possible, and to experiment and build things. And actually coming to an investor with a failure is also a very important thing. If you're able to, start something, drive it. If it fails, it doesn't matter, because an investor knows that you've run something through and you've seen behind you what had happened. So there's a lot of things that investors are looking for in that first interaction.
When did you sell your first business and how did you feel?
So I didn't sell my first business. It's still continuing to operate, and I own 100% of it. So because it was a service industry or a service-based company, I had cultivated one of my project managers to be able to take the reins. So more or less, it serves as like a shell that services Warner Music Group, Sony Music Group, and so on. But I have no involvement in the day-to-day of the company. Yes.
What would you say was the biggest challenge you've ever faced, and what steps did you take to overcome that challenge?
So what was the biggest challenge I had ever faced, and what were some of the steps that I took to overcome them? So my desire to start a new company wasn't something that instantly clicked with QZAM. So I'd probably spent the last 5 or 6 years considering other ideas, considering things that I would leap into and start from the ground up. And so it was really kind of mentally daunting for me, the idea of leaving this thing that was comfortable, lucrative, it kind of built my own brand around it and my own story around it, to leap into something very new. So I set very distinct milestones for myself, because it is really hard to dedicate yourself to multiple things and to only do nights and weekends if you really want to drive something to a big scale. So how I overcome that was kind of putting myself out there in the community, going to these different groups, talking to other founders, talking to other CEOs, investors, and really learning about how that process worked, and reading, if you want to start a company that will require funding, read venture deals, read angel hacks. Like, there are all these resources out there, that will help you overcome fear, if anything, and be more, prepared to jump forward into your new venture.
I guess this was like the question I was just asked, but what was the scariest moment you had in entrepreneurship, and how did you deal with it?
The scariest moment I've ever had as an entrepreneur. I'm up here to be transparent. I've been sued. All of that fun stuff is pretty scary and mentally taxing, but you get through it. I mean, it's you have to have long-term vision and know that at the end of the day, it's all going to be all right. I think that's about it. I mean, like an entrepreneur, you wake up in the middle of the night screaming and so on about this new baby you've brought into the world. So the whole process, it's kind of ups and downs and excitement and failures. So I would say there's no biggest failure, but it's more of, or no biggest fear or scary situation. It's just all iterative. It's all cyclical.
What are your motivating factors?
My motivating factors, what are my motivating factors? As an entrepreneur or as the founder of a company?
Okay. If you've been successful, what keeps you driving forward to change and move and groove, and you could perhaps settle in to something that's already moving along? Is it the drive to create something new?
Yeah, I would say it's the drive to create something new. It's the drive to disrupt an obsolete or antiquated industry. I think there's something very exciting and interesting about seeing something that you feel is fundamentally broken and going in with a solution to that. So
are you trying to change and make something better that you can see?
Absolutely. And then on a more personal note, like, given the space that we're working within, the museum space, like, I didn't have access to arts education or to museums when I was younger. I didn't go to Disneyland. I didn't go to the museums with my family. And as I grew up and saw the power, the transformative power of art and museum knowledge, I, in my adult life, have had access to curators, have had access to these types of experiences, and I wanted to make it accessible to everybody. I wanted these great experiences to be accessible to anyone who walked through the museum doors. So that's that's what gets me up in the morning about, the work that we're doing.
Are you feeling better that you're making what was denied to you accessible to other people?
Absolutely. I think, like, I'm all about democratic access to information and knowledge, and that being able to be shared with the rest of the world is incredibly powerful. So I'm not so sure I'd say I was denied it. I just didn't have the access that I wish I had. But absolutely, yeah. Yes. Great pitch, by the way.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
To own a business and to work for yourself, to be an entrepreneur?
How does it feel to own a business and to work for yourself? I couldn't have it any other way. Like, I've always been someone that loved to create things and loved to drive the boat forward and to make decisions and to kind of build the systems around things. So it is one of the most rewarding and freeing feelings, being an entrepreneur and being able to call the shots and work for yourself. Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question.
One more question. Yes, you in the back. Yep.
Okay. So the first grants we got for my app were through hackathons, but that means you meet other computer scientists. Do you ever get a chance to meet possible business partners, or is that something you're interested in, or do you mainly so partners?
So if I understand correctly, am I ever interested in meeting potential business partners? Absolutely. I mean, one of the big things about being successful in any form of business or trade is about being hyper-connected and being out there networking and sharing your story and learning about other businesses so you have a difference in perspective. So yeah, I mean, I'm always out and about learning things within my industry, things outside of my industry. It's really that diversity of knowledge and perspective that I think makes a well-rounded entrepreneur, founder, and so on. Great, thank you. And I'll be around if you have any questions. Come up to me, don't be shy. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.